now this is Deborah, and she's going to take it from here.
Good evening. Thank you so much for all of you coming here. We drove down an hour north of San Francisco, the Golden Gate Bridge, and we've been fighting UN Agenda 21 for quite some time now. And I'll give you a little background of us and how we got into the smart meter battle. We're land developers. We were both actually born and raised in Southern California. I grew up in Santa Monica and lived in Malibu. And we raised our family in San Marino, where my husband was a scoutmaster and our son went on to be an Eagle Scout. And when they went off to college, we decided to move to Northern California. And as a result, we left where we have rental property here in Southern California that we built a number of years ago. And about 3 years ago, some tenants contacted us and said they were very, very concerned about these meters. The safe meters that we had installed when we built our properties many years ago, the safe analog meters, conventionally tried and trued and tested through industry for all this time, gives off no frequencies or radiation that will go through your home and pulsate through your body. These were going to be removed and replaced with smart meters. So we came down to Southern California to Edison, and we asked them to see their environmental impact study, because being land developers, we were familiar with environmental impact study requirements. And they said that the project was too small and an impact study was not required. And I asked, well, how many customers are you going to install these on? Well, she said, we're going to deploy these on their entire customer base. And I said, well, how many is in your Edison customer base? And they said 5 million. And I told them, this is not small. I need to speak to your supervisor immediately. We're land developers, and I know you have to have had an environmental impact study. So she came back shortly thereafter. We had pushed her because we said we're headed back up north where we live, and we need to have this study to take up with us for very nervous tenants. And she came back and said, as you can imagine, the smart meter department is humongous. The paperwork is huge. How much capacity do you have on your computer? And I said, we'll do a word search. Radiation is safe. The smart meters are safe. Our tenants will not get sick. Anything like that. She said, we'll get it back up to you. Well, I went back up to Northern California, where I asked PG&E for their environmental impact study, and they said they didn't have one. I contacted the California Public Utility Commission, and they said they didn't have one. I knew something was very, very wrong. Shortly after that, I was contacted by PG&E, inviting me only and excluding my husband to dinner meetings to talk about the smart meters. They said there were only 10 Northern California customers invited to these dinner meetings. And my concern had been what would happen when our tenants started to become sick. And they're deploying these meters on our properties. And who's going to cover this? Who's going to be ultimately responsible? Because what I was realizing, that this was UN Agenda 21, and this was a method of property piracy. And what I realized is that through litigation, and massive litigation larger than big tobacco, all property owners of multifamily buildings were going to likely be welcoming lawsuits from attorneys. And this is going to be an enormous battle. I learned that there were several large insurance companies in New York that were already insuring the utility companies for imminent litigation on electromagnetic frequency litigation by customers. So I realized that we had a monster getting ready to expose itself. And I asked PG&E at the first meeting that I attended that I needed to speak to the PG&E attorney. I needed to know how PG&E was going to back up property owners that were being forced to have these meters deployed on their buildings and how they would cover us. And the attorney was evasive, and so I held up a piece of paper and I said, let's just pretend this is a lawsuit I've just received from tenants. How are you going to support us in that? And he said, PG&E would not be responsible or liable in any way, that the CPUC had mandated it. Well, we all know that the Department of Energy only mandated that the utility companies ask us if we wanted a meter or not. That is the only mandate from the Department of Energy. This has been a forced attack and launch upon us in secrecy. So we printed up a couple hundred signs like this one, but it said PG&E. And we went around conservative neighborhoods in Northern California and staked out a couple hundred signs. PG&E did not know what was happening, who was doing this, and what was going on. And they had their smart meter director try to falsify his name and get into our Google group. And it turned out that I received a call from the Chronicle asking me how did I feel being spied upon by PG&E, that I was in their documents, that they were spying on me. And I said, well, it doesn't surprise me at all, because this is a stealth, deceptive deployment on all of us. And this is exactly what I would expect, because what they're doing is far worse than spying. It includes spying. So that's how we started in this journey down a dark pit. And the more research that we did, the more we found where this came from. And I will start going through the PowerPoint that I've put together and explain that. And I'll take questions after, so I'll be welcoming questions when I get through the PowerPoint. This is intended for you to look at very, very closely. This is an incarceration of our homes. This is imprisonment, enslavement, and this is also depopulation, because there's no safe level of radiation emitted from these meters, and they know it. There's no accident behind people getting sick. I've been to many CPUC meetings, California Public Utility Commission meetings, where people have been in tears. They've brought their doctors. They have doctor's letters. They are sick from radiation. And the CPUC ignores them completely. They continue to deploy the meters. Now, at this moment, I'll mention the opt-out. California is unique because of the ridiculous press that PG&E received just before the holidays, where they turned off power off of some people in Santa Cruz. It went all over the world that people were in the dark with Christmas trees decorated and freezers melting onto the floor because PG&E turned off their power when they purchased a safe analog meter from Jerry Day that is on our website. But you don't need to do that because now we have an opt-out, but it's not without an extortion fee. So I would encourage anyone in this room, when you leave tonight, to consider calling Southern California Edison or San Diego Gas and Electric, whoever services your utilities in your home, and tell them you want this biohazard removed immediately, and you'll see why. I will be showing you documents. Every single thing that I will be telling you tonight is documented either with military documents, government documents, or with utility documents. There is nothing that I am telling you that is not fully documented on the harm and dangers. So should you decide to have your meter removed, you will be charged $75 initial fee to have your meter removed and $10 additional a month. If you can get on the CARE, because they care about you so much, program, they will, and that will depend on your finances, it would be a $10 initial removal fee and $5 additional per month. So again, I can't stress enough, they know what they're doing and there is no mistake. This is a web of slavery. This is UN Agenda 21. I want to tell you that the utility companies have all partnered with ICLEI. ICLEI is International Council for Local Environmental Initiatives. We have a website that we purchased, which I hope everybody has a flyer. It's called stopthecrime.net. You will actually see when you go to that, the name is iclei.co. We got into the mother lode by purchasing that site so that when people all over the world went into iclei.org, they might happen into iclei.co and find the truth. ICLEI, we have rebranded. It means International Criminal Law Eliminating Individuals. And that's what ICLEI means. That's exactly what ICLEI means.
Amazing.
So it is part of UN Agenda 21. It is a scientific takeover because now they have technologies where they did not have those years ago. And this is being deployed, as I said, to incarcerate every single one of us, every man, woman, and child. They are using military weaponized microwave radiation. This technology will reduce the population. This assault is invisible. We don't see it, we don't taste it, and we cannot touch these frequencies. They are silent weapons for a quiet war. This is bloodless, and it causes no wounds. I want to tell you that we really are in a battle. We are in a life or death battle. And you need to engage, and you need to hear the truth. And I'm going to present that to you with the documents tonight. And it's important. When justice becomes law, resistance becomes duty. And that is Thomas Jefferson. I have posted on the website, and I've provided boards around the room where you can actually see John F. Kennedy's speeches. And the reason I'm talking about this is I'm going to read this one to you. For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system that has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and military operations. This was part of his speech. We have the entire speech up on stopthecrime.net, and he was assassinated about 2 weeks after he said this speech. Also, Samuel Adams said that no people will tamely surrender their liberties, nor can any be easily subdued when knowledge is diffused and virtue is preserved. So that's what we're talking about tonight. We're just diffusing and dispersing knowledge. These are some flyers. Now, you can download these off our site. You can make your own. We have had tremendous success with this particular flyer, because many people who are not aware of this conspiracy that has been put upon us, this is not a conspiracy, this is all a conspiracy fact. And sometimes people get overloaded and they can't put a personal, they don't see how it would personally affect them, and they might think you're nuts. So we talk about how the parks are closing. Parks are being closed nationwide. Everyone seems to be pretty well aware how the national parks and state parks are being closed. They also know how our roads are crumbling. This is, of course, all by design under UN Agenda 21 and under the Iron Mountain Report. Home foreclosures, energy control, and massive land theft. These are the government documents. They reveal the answers. I can't underscore these documents enough. These are source documents. This is not a regurgitated book that someone wrote that is telling you what the documents say. This is in their words, and they don't mince words. This is very harsh, hard to read, but you need to understand. There are not a lot of reading to these documents. The silent weapons document for a quiet war, I have a quote on the back of this peach document, and I'm just going to tell you right now, pertinent to energy. They say, until such energy dominance is absolutely established, the consent of the people to labor and let others, that's them, the oligarchy, handle our affairs must be taken into consideration, since failure to do so could cause the people to interfere in the final transfer of energy sources to the control of the elite. So they've already told us that they have to avoid our interference. In all of the research that I've done, our interference is the only thing that's going to stop them. And the only thing left is to stop their seizing of energy dominance. And they're really at the last moment of accomplishing that. They're really that close. So this is the first half of that flyer which you have, and the second half are the quotes. Really, without any argument, people are receiving these quotes. They're actually very interested in what JFK had to say about the Iron Mountain Report. Again, this is UN Agenda 21, and it is a Trojan horse. And we all know that it will end all freedoms for all people, for all nations, for all times. Mm-hmm. This is a totalitarian takedown. This is for full spectrum dominance of everything. Agenda 21 right now is inventorying all the resources on the planet. And we are being inventoried as well. Every single thing. The UN policies are transforming and reconfiguring global society under false science. Humans have caused, that we've caused global warming, and that critical climate action must be taken to reduce global warming. That is a fraud. And when you watch the Iron Mountain Report, you will see how they did this. In fact, many of us will remember some of the advertisements of the conditioning during the commercials that we saw as kids growing up about how we were responsible for global warming. At this point, I might just add, because it's not part of my PowerPoint, but I interviewed Ted Turner, Jane Fonda and Ted Turner, a year ago. Thank you. I told Louis I would tell you this story. I interviewed Ted Turner, and it was at a wine venue near where I live. And he was talking to a few hundred people. I'm convinced that most of them were fairly inebriated. They did not hear fully what he said.
Okay.
And I'm certain that they must have felt he was a very rich old recluse, like a Howard Hughes. Because what he said was initially getting applause. He was talking about how he was the second largest landowner in the United States, that he was breeding bears and wild cats and releasing them illegally on his land. That when his handlers trailered these animals out onto his property, and should the rangers see that, they were told, we're just taking them out on a ride. He also went on to say that global warming is our fault. There's too many people using too much stuff. And everyone clapped. He said we need to reduce the global population, and everyone clapped. He said we need to reduce the population by 95%.
90%.
He said that there will be massive food and famine because of the climate change, that there will not be enough food or water, that people will be very hungry, and we will start to riot over food. We're seeing rioting over food happening right now in Greece and Spain. We know that people in Spain right now are dumpster diving. They're hungry. They had a vibrant economy. They're in the streets. We're not being told about this. Unless you go on to alternative media, you will not be hearing any of this at all, because our media is treasonous. They have committed treason. CNN is the cover for psychological warfare. We have had socialized psychological conditioning put upon us for a very, very long time, and now it's time for the truth, as much as we can find the truth. As I was searching for a definition for totalitarianism and technocracy, which is used widely in the discussion of Agenda 21, and I'm figuring a lot of people don't even know what that means, it's hard to say. I was searching, and I came across a little tiny picture on the computer. It was the size of a stamp, and all I could see was the robot. So I enhanced the picture, and I found the Moloch of totalitarianism. Now, we've been protesting Bohemian Grove, and Moloch is one of the deities there. And that drew my attention because Moloch and totalitarianism is pretty doggone evil and pretty doggone inclusive of taking every single thing away from all of us on every single level. And I blew this up. This is an iron statue that was erected in St. Petersburg, Russia, in a cemetery in the mid-'80s. This is an example showing how technocracy is going to deal with humans. And when I use the word they, people say, well, who is they? Well, the Iron Mountain report refers to the they as the rich men of the earth. Well, we know that the they are the 13 wealthiest families of the earth. We know them as the Queen of England. We know them as the Luciferians. We know them as Rothschilds and Rockefellers. Those are the minions. The real wealth is much higher up, and they're behind the shadows. The Queen of England, the Queen of Holland. We call them terrorists wearing tiaras. But they have the global money, and they've been generationally behind this for many, many generations. They've bred and intermarried with first cousins. Many of them are very sick and insane. This is why this is so insane. This is why what you're going to hear tonight with these documents is absolute insanity. We have insanity at the helm right now. We need to understand that the New World Order seeks to control all media, all politics, economy, speech, and engages in widespread use of propaganda, campaigns, and total surveillance. All the stimulus money that you see in reconstructing our major highways in the United States, they're implementing sensors in every bit of our highway infrastructure. Every pipe and every piece of concrete will have a sensor. We will have toll roads, as they already have in many parts of Europe. In Lisbon, the people can't even afford to be on their toll roads. They're on their streets trying to get from one town to another. This is one way to reduce travel, which is what they're trying to do through Agenda 21. They're trying to decrease our socialization so that we can't band together. They're trying to stifle our freedoms and our independence so that we can't unite. It's all part of Agenda 21.
The communists who piled out of
This is Lord Monckton.
the Berlin Wall and into the environmental movement
Can you hear
and took
it?
over Greenpeace, so that my friends who founded it left within a year because they captured it. Now the apotheosis is at hand. They are about to impose a communist world government on the world. You have a president who has very strong sympathies with that point of view. He's going to sign. He'll sign anything. He's a Nobel Peace Laureate. Of course he'll sign. And the trouble is this. If that treaty is signed, your constitution says that it takes precedence over your constitution. And you can't resile from that treaty unless you get the agreement of all the other states parties. And because you'll be the biggest paying country, they're not going to let you out. So, thank you, America. You were the beacon of freedom for the world. It is a privilege merely to stand on this soil of freedom while it is still free. But in the next few weeks, unless you stop it, your president will sign your freedom, your democracy, and your prosperity away forever, and neither you nor any subsequent government you may elect will have any power whatsoever to take it back again. That is how serious it is. I've read the treaty, I've seen this stuff about government and climate debt and enforcement. They are going to do this to you, whether you like it or no. But I think it is here in your great nation, which I so love and I so admire, it is here that perhaps at this 11th hour, at the 59th minute and 59th second, you will rise up and you will stop your president from signing that dreadful treaty, that purposeless treaty, for there is no problem with the climate, and even if there were, economically speaking, there's nothing we can do about it. So I end by saying to you the words that Winston Churchill addressed to your president in the darkest hour before the dawn of freedom in the Second World War. He quoted from your great poet Longfellow: "Sail on, O ship of state. Sail on, O Union, strong and great. Humanity, with all its fears, with all the hopes of future years, is hanging breathless on thy fate." Thank you.
Lord Monckton came to the United States and has been touring the United States, and we met him in Sacramento with the urgent warning of the cap and trade that is getting ready to be initiated at the end of this year. He believes that the United States, California in particular, will be finished if this does finalize. And of course, it's been voted for. We went to Sacramento to underscore the urgency of people becoming aware that what we're buying is air. The oligarchy, they, thought apparently that we've accepted their fake and phony currency for over 100 years that now will actually buy air. That's where we are. That's what they think of us. We're cattle. Now, while this treaty that Lord Monckton spoke about was not passed, the treaties have come in the back door in all of our communities, but through ICLEI. And you can go on to the ICLEI.org website and find out if your city signed on to it. Now, unfortunately, there was an executive order passed, and by the fall of this year, every single city must adopt a climate action plan. That climate action plan is greenhouse gas assessment, which you get to pay for. Each city will be required to reduce its greenhouse gas assessment. This is going to damage all local economies. The intention with all of these plans are to implode each and every city, to bankrupt them. As you know, cities are now going bankrupt. That is the intention of these plans. This is very important. This is the weaponization of cell phone towers. Now, many of you may not be aware that cell phone towers are not being erected for our cell phone coverage benefit. In fact, when you go to stopthecrime.net and you look at scientist Barry Trower's YouTubes, which we've also had transcribed, and I have a copy of that up here, so if someone cannot download or doesn't have a computer, I do have one copy here. And he talks about what has happened in Europe. The viability of cities and villages and kings and queens and castles has been reduced when the cell phone towers have been put on their buildings or in their villages. There are cancer clusters and people are getting sick. And I will talk more about that in a moment. This is an illustration. We've been working with David Dees, who's a world-known artist. He is featured all over the world, and we asked him to weaponize what cell phone towers really are doing. Now, I hope that all of you will start noticing all the cell phone towers. They're disguised in every single way. In fact, as we drive down our street to our town, we can turn this on, and as we're passing cell phone towers, it pulsates at a frequency that dices and slices our DNA. I will tell you that when you drive down roads where these towers are, freeway traveling and so forth, it's important to understand why you may not be feeling clear-headed, why you may be feeling a little foggy and a little distracted and you may have even pinging of the ears and some heart palpitations. This is a frequency. What we now know, of course, is that the telecom industry is the most powerful industry on the face of the planet, and it is the heaviest polluter. It even exceeds the military-industrial complex. They are microwaving the planet with these frequencies. And the frequencies are, again, smart meters, the grid, cell phone towers, antennas, and all of our wireless. All of our wireless in our homes. We're inviting this into our homes. So, again, all of the slides are up on our website. You can print them off individually. You can download them. This is where we are right now today. And it's very important. Everybody's encouraged to go to antennasearch.com and key in your address and find out how many cell phone towers and antennas are in your area. These are the antennas and these are the cell phone towers. So you overlay that and you get to see just how much frequency is targeting you. This is San Francisco. This is only, the first picture here was a 2-mile radius. There are so many here that this is just only a 1-mile radius. They couldn't expand it further than that. And this is when we went down to the Federal Reserve Building to talk to the homeless people that are getting very sick there, and Occupy that is getting very sick there. And that is the level of frequencies that's in those areas. They're intentionally targeting large cities. This is a soft kill. This is what technocracy, total takeover in our homes looks like. You can see the meter. It has a two-way signal, and it pulses into your house, and it takes out the information, it harvests your personal information, and it sends it out. The success of this grid mesh network is going to be dependent on each and every single one of us having an RFID chipped appliance. RFID chipped appliances will allow the utility companies to turn off or on your appliances. The smart meters are only the initial device. That is not this grid. That's just the initial device. So you will find after 1995 that the appliance manufacturers started manufacturing no appliances that did not have RFID chips. We know that GE moved to China recently on stimulus money largely because the grid is going to have global standardized appliances that are going to be manufactured largely in China. So that is why GE moved to China. It will control everything in your home. If you are using too much electricity, they can turn it off. And you will be encouraged because of the tiered pricing to not use certain aspects in your home as you normally have and have been able to now. So if you still have a smart meter, you're going to save a lot of money by having that removed because they will not be able to know what and when you are using your home. And they won't be able to turn off your appliances. So for the $10 a month that you will be paying as an extortion fee, it's going to be well worth it because once they increase all of the rates, which they will, $10 will be a very small price to pay. This is electrosmog. This is what a house looks like with all of the wireless pulsing radiation. This is the Iron Mountain report. This is the beginning of it. I urge everyone to watch it. I'm going to play a second part. It goes rather quickly, so I'll read it. So don't try to read it. It's pretty fast. In 1961, the Kennedy administration ordered a top-down secret study to determine the problems facing the United States if the world moved from a time of war door to a golden age of peace. By 63, the specialists had been selected, and 15 experts from various academic disciplines were chosen from different fields. Their first and last meetings were held in an underground nuclear survival retreat called Iron Mountain. The study was concluded in 1966. Lyndon Johnson gave the order that the report was never to be released because of the content. And a whistleblower released it under the name of John Doe, and it was published in 1967. The establishment promptly said it was a hoax. It is no hoax. It's now hard to obtain, but can be found, and we have it on our site. The report looks deep into the soul of the New World Order. Iron Mountain is a covert agenda to bring the world and America under control of the United Nations. The conclusions reached are now being implemented upon the American people without their knowledge or consent. As this documentary will prove beyond all doubt, what you are about to see and hear is real. It is very disturbing, but it is real. It is dangerous beyond belief, but it is real. It is frightening, and yet it is real. No person in America is safe because in spite of all of the denials of the authorities, it is real and these plans are coming to pass. The report will show how the rich men of the earth are operating and why. You will now understand why America is changing into a fascist police state. You will understand why the federal law enforcement is soon being merged with the police. There is no regard for ethics, morality, or human life. And I urge everyone, we have these, we've made them available, so if you do not want to watch it on your computer, you can purchase these here just for a donation. We just really want everybody to watch this, copy this, get this to your neighbors. This is a government document. This is one of the reasons that JFK was assassinated. He was trying to expose what the secret societies were doing and what this agenda was. And we were warned years ago. And back in 1967, when the whistleblower released this report, it was too outrageous. People could easily not believe it. But we're at a point right now where we can see it. We know where that date in the 60s and now, we can see it, and it shows us how global warming was invented. And it talks about all of what we see as being so horrible. The next source document that we have on our website is the NWO Plans Exposed 1969. And how many of you have ever read this document? Have any of you seen this document? Okay, it is on the website. I have some copies of it here in some source documents. So for those, again, who don't have computers or can't download, I have all the source documents printed out here, and they cost me $20 to print, so if you want to just buy them from me at the end if you don't have access to a computer. Anyone that does, I ask to leave it for people that can't get to a computer. But the New World Order Exposed was, Dr. Day was an insider, and he spoke to a group of doctors back in 1969 to tell them what to expect, because there would be tremendous changes that they wouldn't understand. And he wanted to take the worry and concern out of what they would be seeing. They would find that there would be diseases and illnesses that they wouldn't be able to treat, and they would feel upset. And I'm going to go through, I've highlighted some of the New World Order documents. This is only a few. I urge everyone to read this document. But they talk, again, the New World Order, there is a power, a force of men and women organizing and redirecting all of society globally. This group wields political and financial influence through force and power to determine major events involving countries around the world. In this document, they say that we are all too trusting, that we don't ask the right questions. They say that because we're too trusting, they equate us as being dumb and stupid. They also tell us that everything will be on computers. Well, they are. They talk about that all of our expenditures will be electronically surveilled and tracked. Well, they are now. They talk about that food will be tracked as well. And as we know in UN Agenda 21, they're going to have managed food cores around the smart cities where they move us off rural lands and put us into smart towns. And I will talk about this a little further. But food will be managed. Everyone will be given an amount of calories that you can consume. And if you consume over that, you're just going to have to wait until your calorie count comes up again. Can't make this stuff up. Also, we know that the Chinese experiment where they wanted to enforce the one-child family, they would cut off the education to the second child to deter a second child. When that really wasn't working, they started to cut the food supply off to the family. They would only give them enough food for 3 people. So, of course, that worked. The people started to starve. And now they snitch on one another. Neighbors snitch if a woman is pregnant with a second child. And the authorities come and abort that child. They have the real and stated goals. Everything that they tell us is only one truth. There's a scheme devised behind everything. They'll tell us one purpose, and it really intends to have another purpose. The falsified science. We know, again, global warming. Again, watch Iron Mountain Report. They're going to talk about all of these things. These source documents overlap, and it gives you a broader base because Iron Mountain Report goes to one extent. The silent weapons for quiet wars will spread out the economy. It will talk more about genocide and what they're going to do to reduce the population, how, with toxic food, toxic clothes, toxic everything. And the New World Order talks about skin implants. And we know that in the Obama healthcare bill, it was taken out. They did want skin implants to start in March of next year. That has been taken out, but we know they want to put skin implants in all of us, each and every one of us. Everything will have a sensor. Every single thing will have a sensor. They're going to, the smart grid will be able to pick up the frequencies and track us with the implants. They've been implanting our dogs and cats at the Humane Society for years. We recently got a cat from the Humane Society and had the sensor removed. And the vet told us, gee, I'm not sure we can remove the sensor. And my husband said, we need you to remove that sensor because they do cause cancer. The frequencies at the sensor site cause cancer. So we have this little sensor that's about the size of a grain of rice that was taken out of our cat. They'll monitor us. They told us again, this is the 1969 New World Order exposed. Everything that they said then, they are now doing. They also said that they would have voice-to-skull communication, that there would be the ability to direct frequencies and target individuals for voice-to-skull talking in your head. Now, I will tell you, initially when I started in smart meters, I had no idea that there were actually frequencies intended to control us and manipulate us and to take over our brains. I did not know that part of this frequency struggle and battle that we are in now. But I can tell you that there are people all over the world that have been used as guinea pigs. They're targeted individuals. It is an electronic terror. It is an electronic nightmare. Now, initially, the targets were implementing, usually by their dentist or some operation, a chip was inserted, many times in the jaw during dental work, and in the shoulder in different locations. But now they don't need to insert implants. They can do direct targeting from the frequencies of HAARP and through the satellite system. It is a frequency-based mesh network. And this is in the New World Order document. This, which you can't read very well, I scanned the newspaper. My type is at the top. But what you can't read well is what PG&E sent to all of us in Sonoma County about what the smart meters and how they would benefit us as customers. They said that we will receive energy alerts, that we can take advantage of timed varying pricing by the smart meters, and we can view and track our hourly energy usage, that we'll have faster power restoration in the event of a power outage, and we can stop and start our gas service more quickly when we move. Okay, PG&E did not tell us that they were going to deploy these smart meters, that they would invade on our homes and spy on us and emit dangerous levels of radiation. They also did not tell us that we would all be required to replace every appliance with an RFID chip. They did not tell us that. PG&E also partnered with ICLEI, with the United Nations. That has been under the radar. You can go on to ICLEI.org, or Southern California Edison partnered with ICLEI. They have signed on with the United Nations. They have subverted our state constitution, our Bill of Rights, and our Constitution. Also, just as an FYI, PG&E has a major shareholder called Rothschild. Smart meters, as I said earlier, it is not UL certified, meaning that the underwriter laboratory confirms smart meters have not been safety tested. This has brought rise to fire concerns. We know that many homes have burned down all over the country. In fact, many homes have burned down in Australia, in the UK, and also Canada. This is becoming a frequent reality of the smart meters. This is a picture of multimeters on the end of an apartment house. As you can see, that person locked their meters up with locking rings. Edison has been cutting these locking rings off prior to the opt-out. And people also have been building cages and wiring their safe analog meters to their homes to prevent vandalism. But now in California, we do have the opt-out. What you're seeing here is the RF tester. It's on, and you can see it has safe levels. It's not spiking up to max. When we have smart meters, those levels are spiking to maximum, which is 1900 on this RF analyzer. That is deadly. Those are deadly pulsations to our bodies. This is going to mean at some point on multifamily apartments that property owners are going to have to write in a disclosure that if a person is living near a gang of electrical meters, they need to know that. It's also going to impact property values. Again, I say this is a land grab. They know this is going to impact property values. What can you do if you do not disclose to tenants that they have multiple meters, biohazards, on their buildings? You have to tell them this. They can't move many other places because most places have meters. But apartment owners need to be told about these meters. They are not taking these meters off their buildings, and they need to. We were told by a whistleblower about a special smart meter that's deployed on every 500 to 700 homes. You get the special meter, which we've named the Medusa meter, if you are a good paying customer, if your meter is located conveniently to the street, not behind a gate, and not with dogs. This meter collects data from thousands of pulses around your neighborhood as it piggybacks through the grid mesh network. This is a miniature cell phone tower that they're putting on people's homes. We had one woman in Marin that became very, very ill, and we discovered that she was the recipient of a preferred customer mini cell phone tower. Equally as toxic to us is the dirty electricity. Again, this is on our website. Dr. Sam Millam is a whistleblower. He's a scientist. This is an industry cover-up. This is toxic, and the utility companies, the cell phone industry, and public utility commissioners, state and health departments, and the FDA all are in the cover-up. These frequencies are overloading our power lines. They're going into our house wires in our homes. They do not need wires to transmit from the inside of your home into your bodies. Okay? It says the basic frequency on the power lines of electrical power delivered to our homes and other buildings is now increased with an added higher frequency, polluting the electrical voltage and currents, delivering the higher frequency power into the wiring. Dirty electricity does not need a direct wire connection. It connects through the air, traveling into the human body from the wiring carrying the power. So it's very important to eliminate wire box spring mattresses. Women, do not wear underwire bras. Men, be sure that your stays in your collars are plastic and not metal. What is being targeted is the metal. This is near your glands, and this will cause all kinds of glandular malfunctions. You can implement items to diffuse the dirty electricity, and we're going to show you at the end. So while I'm dumping a lot of horrific information on you, we are going to talk about remedies and how you can create a safe home. And we'll test it here in one of the outlets that we tested earlier and show you how you can relieve the dirty electricity in your home. At this point, I will tell you that in 1970, in Medford, Oregon, the government tested by blasting frequencies on the homes in Medford. In a 24-hour period, there were 25 suicides. Research team went to Medford, Oregon to determine if it was from the air, the water, or the soil, and they found that it was from frequencies. It was actually frequencies being beamed from Russia. We had an agreement that they could experiment on us, and we could experiment on them. And the scientist and the research team, when they returned back to their labs, you can look this up, this is online, they were told never to divulge this experiment or their lives would be in jeopardy. This is the weaponization that the Fort Meade military document speaks to. This talks about the weaponization of frequencies and how they are being used and are the underpinnings of the smart grid. We know that these weaponized military technologies were first used heavily by the military for spying and battlefield applications. The CIA became very interested in microwaves many decades ago. How could they influence someone's mental state? And how can they harm without wounds or without bleeding? The level of research and knowledge is profound, but not shared with us, the public. So the rollout of smart meters, like the rollout of cell phone towers and cell phones, is a covert action by the CIA. And for what purpose? Infertility, depopulation, mind control, and big pharma reaps more profits when people have more problems. Anything from difficulties in sleeping, depression, diabetes, cancer, and heart attacks. These people that are doing this are not dumb. They're not stupid. They're just very, very evil. That's what we're battling. This is a fight now between good and evil. We're battling very evil people. This Fort Meade military document I vetted, and it is on our website. It is only 21 pages long. I will just go through a few of the highlights of it here. The electromagnetic fields influence biological systems and cause adverse effects on human health, cancer, reproduction, etc. It says this in this military document. Increases brain temperatures, causes disruption of working memory, resulting in disorientation. Every human is subject to the effects of microwave heating, and the predictability is 100%. Slow onset of such frequency heating can be unrecognized by the person being irradiated. Inability to consolidate memory. Many people are experiencing buzzing, ticking, hissing, or knocking sounds. They can originate immediately behind the head and distract someone that's being targeted. I mentioned voice-to-skull communication. They aim the devices. They can send microwave great distances. There's loss of consciousness and intense muscle spasms in many instances. Frequency variations cause different physical effects. So the different levels of pulsations cause different effects. They affect how the beating of your heart and your breathing. Electromagnetic pulses can be used for targeting groups of people. Persistent and invasive low-frequency humming sounds have been reported all over the world. People are not getting a good night's sleep. Many people are finding that they're waking up between 1 and 4 in the morning. They're turning it up. This is called grill flame. They're turning up the frequencies on the cell phone towers and the antennas, and it's causing sleep disruption. We need those hours to recover and to heal. And when we are unable to rest and get the deep level of REM sleep, we don't repair and we become sick. So we're going to talk about ways in which you can create a safe house and a safe environment and some of the things that you can do to be safe. Radio waves are ideal for remote human cell manipulation, and this was in the New York Times. New York Rockefeller University says this is a breakthrough. They talk about the ability to modify the behavior of genes without ever going into a patient's body. This is potentially colossal. Well, we know that. Microwaving has been done all over the world. I can tell you that cell phone towers have been concealed in different areas in Iraq. They're called poppers. They're little domes. They're about this big. And they were placed in hidden areas in different villages and towns in Iraq. And once activated, they would transmit about a half-a-mile radius, and they would pass through anything, through metal, concrete, or skulls, up to a half-a-mile. And the Iraqi people were unaware of this deadly, silent, and invisible war that we waged upon them. These frequencies cause targeted people to lose all incentive for further resistance and revenge. Frequencies create mood swings and change our ability to resist. So I have a countdown to the decline in America. I have it on a board. You can download this off our site, stopthecrime.net. It is a chronology of how things occurred. But we are told in 2011 that the President announced that 98% wireless coverage in the United States, and at least 9 million unknowingly electromagnetically sensitive Americans will be affected immediately. Now they refer to this as electromagnetic sensitivity. It is really radiation sickness. It's radiation sickness. It's not a sensitivity. Everyone is going to be affected by the radiation. On our website, we have a list of the various ailments that are as a result of the frequencies. These ailments are also listed in the Army documents. There are over 10,000 scientific documents in from all over the world. In fact, the Karolinska Institute in Stockholm, Sweden, sent an urgent message to the California CPUC asking them to immediately stop the continuation of deploying the smart meters in California because of the results and the evidence that they have found. So what I want to say at this point, for any of you that have amalgam fillings, silver amalgam fillings, have them removed by a dentist that has the correct the correct equipment to remove these fillings. Because what's happening with these frequencies, it's creating a battery effect. And the mercury vapors are released, and it's causing unbelievable illnesses. And again, we get back to the light bulbs. I'll just throw that in right now. We've recently been mandated to have CFL light bulbs that are all mercury-based. On the EPA website, it says disposal of these light bulbs must be at a hazmat waste site. You know, they're not going to go to a hazmat waste site. People are going to throw them in their trash. They're going to end up at the landfills. They're going to leach this toxic mercury into our soil and into our water supply. Our trash haulers are going to get sick. We're going to get sick. Why? You have to ask, why are all these toxins being added at every level of our consumer? Our consumption, we have poisonous toxic choices at every single level.
The problem is, can you get the American people to say this is really important and force their representatives to do the right thing?
Force.
That requires mobilizing a citizenry. That requires them understanding what is at stake. You know, and climate change is a great example. You know, when I was asked earlier about the issue of coal, you know, under my plan of a cap and trade system, electricity rates would necessarily skyrocket. Even, you know, regardless of what I say about whether coal is good or bad, because I'm capping greenhouse gases, coal power plants, you know, natural gas, you name it, whatever the plants were, whatever the industry was, they would have to retrofit their operations. That will cost money. They will pass that money on to consumers.
This is collapsing our economy. This is an example of a increase of 50%. San Diego Gas and Electric customer surveyed a 50% increase after their smart meter was installed. And that is before the utility companies have really launched their three-tiered pricing. And they have not really launched that yet until they get more people cinched with these meters. They don't want more of a pushback. The DRA, this is the Division of Ratepayer Advocates. They work between the CPUC and us, and they looked at the reports that Southern California Edison provided them, and they said that the smart meter deployment is unlikely to materialize data collected savings costs. This is the DRA, the DRA. We researched the IEEE. These are the global grid thought leaders. This is the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers. We found these documents out of Europe. We get the truth out of Europe, but we found and stumbled into these just by chance. This is what the global thought leaders are talking behind the scenes about the deployment of the global smart grid. They are talking about who, well, first of all, I will tell you that the U.S. Department of Energy, the World Bank, Goldman Sachs, Yahoo, IBM, NASA, and many other major players are involved in deploying these meters. This is an all-out assault upon the global population. This is part of the oligarchy, the they. They talk about how they've advanced technology for the benefit of humanity, and yet they never told us about what they had planned for us. I don't remember that we ever were told at all about what this was going to become. They talk about the concept that prosperity is linked to energy and along associated challenges in the provision of electricity. It's to reduce CO2 emissions, and IEEE is composed of 400,000 members in 160 countries. I actually spoke to an IEEE manager here in California, and asked him, with the scientific expertise that is available in your IEEE, do they all really believe in global warming? And he said no, that they don't, but that they are Delphied when they try to bring up global warming. We know that the Delphi technique is through the RAND Corporation, and that the RAND Corporation Delphi techniques is used in all of our local city council meetings, in all of our meetings, everywhere now we're being Delphied. The IEEE talks about a global-wide area monitoring and control that will occur. Rationing and restriction of consumption will be used to control energy usage. Rationing will be forced upon the public due to intermediate energy supply sources and will change more, and this will change more frequently. They talked about how the politicians are afraid to talk about the smart grid and that it's going to be very expensive, but because we all concur with green, we'll be willing to pay for this. And I don't know about you, but I don't hear any of our politicians even talking about the smart grid. There's a national outcry against it. There are moratoriums in cities against this. There's people being arrested that don't want smart meters, and yet all of our elected officials don't even discuss it. You would not even know it exists. You would not even know that. They say that the smart grid is one of the biggest changes that we're ever going to see in our entire life. They say no single problem can be as important to solve as the global grid standardization, and that is standardizing all appliances. There will be no borders of the grid, so countries that fought against one another in the past will not have a cutoff with their energy supply. It will be global. They're trying to control us too much. Again, this is on the website. They say that we're going to want to know how much it costs to cook a chicken in our oven or barbecue it. Our utilities are going to cost that much that it's going to matter that we know this. This is a mission statement that we found when we were just searching Carnegie Mellon's mission statement. They talk about a hidden secret that they want to unleash to the world, and it's about the infrastructure. They talk about how sensors will be in every single thing, in buildings, pipes, the power grid, concrete, and steel. That we are transitioning from a physical infrastructure, which was our traditional infrastructure, to a cyber infrastructure of computers, networks, and sensors. This is quote per quote their mission statement. They have a hidden secret. I won't say too much about this. This is online. This is a NASA document that we just recently acquired. It talks about the future war within the continental United States using frequencies. That is going to be the way in which they're going to attack. It's through frequencies. They talk about how, this is in a NASA document, Spaceship Earth. The crew is plundering the ship's supplies, tinkering with the temperature and life support controls, still looking for the instruction manual, engaging in bloody skirmishes in every corner of the vessel, increasing the size of the crew by 2 million per week. They talk about how we're responsible. Humans have taken over and vastly shortened evolution of the planet, and global warming, pollution, and deforestation. They talk about how everything will be telecommuting, that by 2025, 40% of the private schools and 15% of all public colleges will close because they won't be able to stay open due to the telecommuting, meaning that we will be desocializing. They want to keep us individualized so that we can't meet like we are tonight. We'll all be individually sitting behind computers and not talking to one another. You'll see that in the other source documents, how they were breaking apart the family and desocializing people. Again, they talk about using RF weaponry. They know that it causes brain interaction. They talk about humans. Increasingly critical are human limitations, and the downsides of us is that we're too large, too heavy, too tender, too slow, physically and mentally. And we require huge logistics. Humans have rapidly decreased to negative value because they're transitioning to robots. So I'll let you read more of that on your own. The reason I'm showing this map, which you can download off of stopthecrime.net, is this is showing the areas where human access is denied. The importance of this is that people that are electrically, magnetically sensitive and are fleeing heavy microwaved areas, either from cell towers or smart meters, have been having to go to the rural areas. We're not going to be allowed to be in rural areas. The parks are closing for a reason. Roads aren't being prepared because we're not going to be allowed access to many areas of the United States. Also, the smart grid infrastructure is intended to only last for 20 years until the year 2030, according to industry documents. This is an illustration of the Iron Mountain Report and the stranglehold of the United States with the Wildlands Project and the Iron Mountain Report. This is the future of U.S. cities. This is going to be built in Northern California, not too far from where we are. It is a $8.4 million project, and it will create a state-of-the-art environmental shield enclosing the town of just under 2,000 residents in Lassen County in Northern California. The town will be used as a proving ground for technology that will one day enclose major U.S. cities, especially those prone to weather-related disasters such as tornadoes and hurricanes, with a clear protective dome. The structure material is believed to be capable to resist against a Category 5 hurricane. I ask that all of you go to toxicsky.org, understand how they've already gained total manipulation of the weather, so that they do create the weather events that our city and towns and our nation has been hit with. Also, don't fall for the free appliances that the utilities will be offering. Many low-income people are being offered free RFID chipped appliances and light bulbs. Don't fall for that. This is what a chip looks like. In Wired magazine, quote, "Spies will no longer have to plant bugs in your home. The rise of connected gadgets controlled by RFID chipped apps will mean that people bug their own homes," says the CIA director, David Petraeus. This is what global chipping will look like when it starts to happen. This is what human chipping will look like. Eventually, we will all be required to have that. What they're doing is they're transitioning our paper currency to a energy credit. We will no longer use paper currency as we've had before. We'll be using energy credits. There is a 1 million square foot data collection center currently being built right now in Bluffdale, Utah. It is going to collect the cascading levels of data from all over the world. And again, David Petraeus says we will be spied upon. William Binney, who is a whistleblower, said that we're this far from a turnkey totalitarian state. Everybody's a target. Everybody with communication is a target. This is an insider. This is a group that's set up to encourage cities to require that we have smart meters, whether we want them or not. You can't hide behind closed doors, and you're not safe from the radiation behind closed doors. The world is a dangerous place, not because of people who are evil, but because of people who don't do anything about it, says Albert Einstein. This is a map of the deployment of smart meters in the United States in the source documents. They say they start at coastal states. Again, we talked about who's orchestrating this, the powerful people of the world. You can take a look at this in more detail. When you have your smart meter taken off, you want to verify with your utility company that the analog meter that they are replacing your smart meter with has no capability, no smart meter system capability. They're sneaking in replacements that still are capable to connect to the smart grid. When you accept the intolerable, you wake up to a nation that's enslaved. This is a flyer that you can download from our site. The global grid is global, and it's very, very important to understand the levels of our health, and that we must understand the extent of the threat in order to engage in the required resistance. So this is not meant to scare anybody. This is all source documents. It's only meant to educate you. You can buy new meters. This is what it looks like when you build a screen around your meters and the celebration over that. And
if I wanted America to fail, to follow, not lead, to suffer, not prosper, to despair, not dream, I'd start with energy. I'd cut off America's supply of cheap, abundant energy. I couldn't take it by force. So I'd make Americans feel guilty about using the energy that heats their homes, fuels their cars, runs their businesses, and powers their economy. I'd make cheap energy expensive, so that expensive energy would seem cheap. I would empower unelected bureaucrats to all but outlaw America's most abundant sources of energy. And after banning its use in America, I'd make it illegal for American companies to ship it overseas. If I wanted America to fail, I'd use their schools to teach one generation of Americans that their factories and their cars will cause a new ice age. And I'd muster a straight face so I could teach the next generation that they're causing global warming. When it's cold out, I call it climate change instead. I'd imply that America's cities and factories could run on wind power and wishes. I'd teach children how to ignore the hypocrisy of condemning logging, mining, and farming while having roofs over their heads, heat in their homes, and food on their tables. I would never teach children that the free market is the only force in human history to uplift the poor, establish the middle class, and create lasting prosperity. Instead, I demonize prosperity itself so that they will not miss what they will never have. If I wanted America to fail, I would create countless new regulations and seldom cancel old ones. It would be so complicated that only bureaucrats, lawyers, and lobbyists could understand them. That way small businesses with big ideas wouldn't stand a chance. And I would never have to worry about another Thomas Edison, Henry Ford, or Steve Jobs. I would ridicule as flat earthers those who urge them to lower energy costs by increasing supply. And when the evangelists of common sense try to remind people about the laws of supply and demand, I'd enlist the sympathetic media to drown them out. If I wanted America to fail, I would empower unaccountable bureaucracy seated in a distant capital to bully Americans out of their dreams and their property rights. I'd send federal agents to raid guitar factories for using the wrong kind of wood. I'd force homeowners to tear down their own homes built on their own land. I'd make it almost impossible for farmers to farm, miners to mine, loggers to log, and builders to build. Because I don't believe in free markets, I'd invent false ones. I'd devise fictitious products like carbon credits and trade them in imaginary markets. I'd convince people that this would create jobs and be good for the economy. If I wanted America to fail, for every concern I'd invent a crisis, and for every crisis I'd invent a cause, like shutting down entire industries and killing tens of thousands of jobs in the name of saving spotted owls. And when everyone learned the stunning irony that the owls were victims of their larger cousins and not people, it would already be decades too late. If I wanted America to fail, I'd make it easier to stop commerce than to start it, easier to kill jobs than create them, more fashionable to resent success than to seek it. When industries seek to create jobs, I'd file lawsuits to stop them, and then I'd make taxpayers pay for my lawyers. If I wanted America to fail, I would transform the environmental agenda from a document of conservation to an economic suicide pact. I would concede entire industries to our economic rivals by imposing regulations that cost trillions. I would celebrate those who preach environmental austerity in public while indulging a lavish lifestyle in private. I convince Americans that Europe has it right and that America has it wrong. If I wanted America to fail, I would prey on the goodness and the decency of ordinary Americans. I would only need to convince them that all of this is for the greater good. If I wanted America to fail, I suppose I wouldn't change a thing.
and this is available up on our website. So this concludes the PowerPoint. I'll leave this up so that you can see. This was in the New York Times. Again, the oligarchy, tells us in plain sight what they do, and this is a HARP map. This is one of the first HARP maps that has been shown like this. It was shown during the assassination a couple of weeks ago, and so people really didn't notice it. But Lorraine Murray, who was going to be with us tonight, that was ill, wanted me to be sure that I showed all of you HARP and told just a couple of things. She has some DVDs about HARP as well. But HARP is part of the frequency grid, and it is enmeshing us, and it is involved with mind control. So at this point,
If I wanted America to fail,
I would ask, do any of you have any questions? I do want to show you, I do need to tell you about some things you can do in your homes. We found that some of our...
Did need to let him ask the question.
Thank you.
Yeah, I wanted to just show you these really quick before I forgot to.
Yeah, and
yes.
So the question is, just so you guys know, I opted out and I finally got the analog, I think. I just want to know how you can tell if it's not one of those pseudo ones that you mentioned. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do you really know if it's a real thing?
Well, I'll send you some, well, I've got some pictures on my website so that you can actually see that.
Oh, you can see it?
Yeah, and I'll get you more information on that. Because they are putting antenna, there is a one-way antenna. If they actually have to walk up to your house and they can't go down the street with a wand,
Okay. That's a good indication if they have to walk
they
up.
have to walk up. Yeah.
Now, I checked, there's a website that Deborah has let me look at, and I checked it out, and actually what they did is I checked the website out on all the cell towers that are by my house. You know where Bell Mountain is? Does everyone know where Bell Mountain is? There's a big cell tower right there. It's like a little molehill. I live in the addition not far from there. There's 38 cell towers around my house. Pretty incredible. And you can find this out on the website. It'll tell you how many cell towers are around your home.
Yeah, that's
Here in
antenna
Temecula,
search.
it's like 37 within 2 miles. I
Yeah,
did it.
antennasearch.com.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good site.
Antenna.
Yeah. Well, let me just explain this. This is a Stetzerizer. We just took delivery on these and put them in our outlets at our home to push out the dirty electricity that's coming through our wall sockets. Our home was very hot.
Can you spell that?
It's a Stetzerizer. Stetzerizer. Now, I'm going to have my husband demonstrate how this works.
I'm serious.
Yes, in the socket in the back of the room. And he'll just, because all of you are sitting there and you can't get close, he will just tell you what's happening. You have to put the Stetzer, show them the Stetzer, sweetheart, with the 2 prongs. This has to go into a 3-pronged outlet.
So it's basically, it's a filter is what it is.
There you go.
So you put the tester in first, and you can see how much radiation is frequency, what the frequency level is. And 25 is where you want it to be. That's a safe level. So we tested this earlier, and this one tests at?
It's bouncing around between 1,825 and 1,740. So it's bouncing around, it's pulsing.
So many people may feel their spine is hot. Our spines act as antenna. So to reduce the heat in your spine, which many people may
So
feel,
let me install one and see.
they'll put this in and you can see the drop.
So what are the units that you're saying, 25, what are the units that are?
It's the frequencies that are coming in through the wall sockets. This is the electricity similar to the way they pulsed it on Medford, Oregon.
Okay.
This is sending it back. It's,
So one filter here reduced it to 144 to 150. So you would need to install a second one at least to bring it down to a lower level. In my daughter's office where they have a large copier machine, I had to put 4 of them on just the copy machine alone to bring it down to the...
So these are per room?
well, it depends on what it measures.
Okay.
Sometimes you'll
we-
take 2 per room and sometimes 1, but if there's big equipment and things going on, then it'll take more, and you have to get a power strip so you can
So you
add
just
them
check
all up.
every socket.
Right. Now,
So
you
is
may
this
want
a-
to, as a group, if you want to do this, you go to Stetzer.com. Again, that's STETZERIZER.com. And for bulk orders, they reduce the price, not a lot, but enough. It's worth trying to get maybe a couple of homes involved. It can cost about, for an average 3-bedroom home, about $600 a home, depending on how dirty your outlets are and what the frequencies are.
They say the average is about 20 filters per home to clean it up.
Yeah. But, and we just installed these in our house, and it brought our frequencies down tremendously. And as he was just saying, we installed them in our son-in-law's office too. Yes?
So you're still gonna get parked out and microwave, even though you take care of this, you're still gonna get the other things that they're doing.
Okay.
Wireless
Okay,
technology.
well, there's more to talk about that. Metal screens used to be what we always had on our homes. Now we have fiberglass screens. Metal screens eliminated or prevented the ultra-low frequencies from coming in our home. They intentionally transitioned us to fiberglass screens. So for those that may be feeling uncomfortable in your home, if you're getting headaches and heart palpitations, irritability, you can't sleep well through the night, your spine hurts, start with getting rid of your wire box spring mattress, get on a bed without wire in it, and try many things. Our diets are very, very important right now. Really be certain that you're eating clean, whole, organic food, no GMOs, and eat things that are more easily assimilated than what we as Americans have gotten accustomed to eating. It is recommended by doctors that are treating radiation sickness that people drink a lot of juices, organic juices, vegetable juices. That really does help us, yes.
My question is going back to the smart meters that I told you about earlier, that I have noticed a ringing in my left ear. I've also noticed a vertigo, and I didn't know until I read that. A sleep problem, sleeping
Yes.
through the night. I mean,
Yes.
and there, of course, problems with the left eye. I mean, of course, you could read a lot into it. The first 5 things on there, I think I've got already, but that's because of my age, you know. But basically, I think that ear ringing and the vertigo really is frightening. And there's not an answer. You know, you go to the doctor, and he said, "Well, you've had concussions in the past," and
Yeah, they're
you know,
not trained. They don't
How
even
do they-
realize how the frequencies are affecting us at this point.
well, he may not. Well, anyway, I will bring it up to him.
Yeah, bring
But
it up
so,
to him.
telling us to change out of the smart meter, right?
Absolutely.
And you think some of these things may hopefully disappear?
Well, we have had these disappear. We have known people that have had ringing of the ears. You need to wear earplugs at night.
I do that.
Okay, that helps. Even when you're in your home behind your computer, wear earplugs
Ah,
to help reduce the...
I noticed that when I'm on my computer.
Yeah.
that
People
le-
are starting to get more sensitive. So
Ah.
more and more people are going to get more sensitive as time goes.
Lightheadedness too. You get lightheaded?
Yeah, it's part of the dizziness and part of the vertigo. Yes.
So you're saying that metal doors, screen doors are better than the fiberglass?
Yes.
Because then they absorb the radiation?
No, the
They don't.
fiberglass are better than the metal.
No.
No,
the metal.
The metal
Metal's
is
better?
better than
Yes.
fiberglass.
It'll
Yes.
deflect
So the
it.
metal.
It
They
deflects it, yeah.
They
Right.
deflect it, yes.
What can we do with the smart meters that are already on there? I heard that there was some kind of a remedy to, something to put on it, including aluminum or,
Gotta get it off.
No.
I've heard that.
Get rid of
Yeah,
them.
I know, we hear a lot of things, but when the smart meter's on, it is receiving data from your entire neighborhood. It's a grid mesh network, And so you're receiving data, it's gathering, it's just going from one meter to another. So you want to eliminate that. You want to inform your neighbors as best you can and get as much of a peripheral around your home as possible. Okay.
So how does the smart meter compare to like a wireless system in your home compared to the wireless towers? I mean, all that
They all add
impacting
up.
you.
They all add up.
So how would it reduce if you remove your smart meter, but you still have to deal with the cell towers and your wireless?
Okay, well, we know people now that are getting sick enough to where they can't be around wireless, period. They're eliminating all the Wi-Fi in their homes. So that's a decision that you have to make as you may start to become, and as you will start to become more sick. So you may want to start reducing some things now so that it's not so traumatic on the ease and the ability to have wireless. I know that we switched to all corded phones. That was really a pain. I don't use the cordless phones anymore. That pulsated to as high as our frequencies would allow. So cordless phones are not good.
Excuse me, Deborah.
Yes.
And Lou, I wanted to ask, are you folks available? I mean, because we have to get out of here. These people are waiting.
Okay.
Are you available if we went over to a Denny's or something and huh?
Let's go out,
Yeah, I mean, and
Sure.
that way, if some people have some questions, they can
Absolutely.
continue,
Oh, sure.
okay? And
Yes.
I'd be glad to cover you and Lou. That's not a problem. So if we could, is that okay for some of you that would like to continue this, the questioning?
We've got
Back it out.
2 minutes.
I mean, this
to pack
is
everything up and
invaluable.
go and get out of
It
here.
is.
Are you gonna be speaking anywhere else around here?
I do mostly radio work.